I'm going to talk about the Single Justice Procedure Notice. The Single Justice Procedure Notice came about as a result of an amendment to the Criminal Justice Act 2003 by the Criminal Justice and Courts Act 2015. The reason behind the Single Justice Procedure Notice is that there has been a decrease in the number of magistrates' courts around the country. In Gloucestershire, for example, there used to be 5 magistrates' courts. There is now 1 magistrates' court at Cheltenham. This means that there is increased demand on the time available for matters to be dealt with at the magistrates' court. The Criminal Justice and Courts Act 2015 enables summary-only, non-imprisonable matters to be dealt with by way of a single magistrate sitting with a court legal advisor on their own, without the need for a prosecutor or a defence lawyer or the defendant to attend. It means that for relatively straightforward matters, typically motoring matters, but always matters that are summary only and which are non-imprisonable, it means that court time and resources can be devoted to more serious cases, and it means that defendants do not necessarily have to take a day off work to attend at court for relatively trivial matters. So these are matters that can only be dealt with at the magistrates' court, summary only, and they are matters that are non-imprisonable. The Criminal Procedure Rules make provision under Section 7 for matters such as single justice procedure notices to be dealt with administratively. It means that the police or the prosecutor are obliged to look at matters, to consider matters that might be dealt with by way of the Single Justice Procedure Notice. And if the Single Justice Procedure Notice is appropriate, then the police or the prosecutor will prepare a written charge and at the same time will prepare a Single Justice Procedure Notice and will send those documents to the defendant and to the court. When the defendant receives them, they have the opportunity, should they wish, to enter a plea by post. They can plead guilty or not guilty, or they can request that the matter be dealt with in the usual way. If the defendant pleads guilty by post, then it would be normal for the matter to be dealt with by the single justice sitting on their own with the court legal advisor. So, for example, if they pleaded guilty to careless driving, it might be that they would receive some points on their licence and an endorsement. There are exceptions to this. If, for example, with that driving matter, if there was a risk of totting or if there was a risk of being disqualified from driving, it might then be that the court would require the defendant to attend in person so that they could be informed that they were to be disqualified from driving. If, however, the defendant writes back and indicates that they intend to plead not guilty, then it might be that the court will then ask the individual to come to court in person so that case management can be conducted. The reason for the case management requirement is this. If an individual has pleaded guilty or pleaded not guilty by post, it might be that the court considers that the court needs more information in order to allocate sufficient time and resources to the case. So if the matter is to proceed to trial, the court will want to allocate a courtroom, it will want to allocate magistrates, it will want to allocate a court legal advisor, and it will want to know what witnesses are required to attend, if there's any evidence, if there's any CCTV, or if there's any dash cam footage. The court will want to know matters like that so that the appropriate length of time can be allocated to the case, so that the court doesn't allocate a day, for example, for a matter that will only take 2 hours. So under the Single Justice Procedure Notice, the purpose is to free up court time for more complicated, more serious matters. The matters can only be dealt with that are summary only and cannot be dealt with by way of imprisonment. And the prosecutor will send a written charge and a single justice procedure notice to the defendant. The defendant then has to write back to indicate whether they're going to plead guilty, not guilty, or to request that the matter be dealt with in the usual fashion. The single justice sitting alone will then decide for guilty pleas what the sentence should be, and for not guilty pleas will look at the matter and will typically then require that the matter be dealt with by way of a case management hearing, so that the court has the opportunity to look at the matters in the case, to look at the facts that are in dispute, to look at those matters that are not in dispute, and to allocate appropriate court resources for a trial.